In the last episode, we heard from Jessica Kalikman, the marketing director at Aster the Label, a Los Angeles-based fashion brand, and we talked about how to grow through affiliates, but through the lens of a fashion brand. Now, today, get ready. I'm chatting with Heather Roach, Director of Marketing at Original Footwear Company, and we'll be talking about how brands can leverage SMS for growth. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of Splitbase. This is Minds of eCommerce. Now, this episode is brought to you by Splitbase. At Splitbase, we help leading 8- and 9-figure brands such as Dr. Squatch, Hyperice, Amika grow through customer-focused conversion optimization programs. We find out exactly where your store is losing money most, and then we help you fix it. You'll find out what's working and what's not working, what's getting people to buy and what's stopping people from buying. And with that information, we help you increase your conversions, help you achieve higher AOV, and of course, make more money, which in return will allow you to scale your ads profitably. We've been at it for over a decade and can help you manage the entire process from A to Z. So go to splitbase.com to request your free proposal and learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend through conversion optimization. All right, Heather, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, as you know, now this podcast is all about going deep, right? And dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away. And now I know that on your end, you've really focused a lot on SMS since you joined the company and with great success. So can you just maybe to give people a bit of context as to how you see SMS and how SMS is being used in the company? Can you just give us a bit of a context around that? And then obviously we'll want to dive into what you're actually doing and what's working.
Yeah, absolutely. SMS, I feel like, is a very underutilized application with customer outreach, direct one-on-one. It's something that for us, we've definitely underutilized it in the past. And now that we're using it as the platform is intended, we've seen nothing but success year over
Mm.
year. I think it's one of those things that's very handy to give a personal touch to your brand, especially if you are utilizing it correctly, which I know we're going to go into a little bit more.
Awesome. So yeah, tell me more. How do you do SMS correctly? And I think I really appreciate your perspective here because what you told me earlier before we started recording is there was a time where SMS wasn't valued at the company as much as it is today. So you've seen the before and you've seen the after and the fantastic results that the after has brought. So what does that after look like? What does a brand that has SMS but doesn't really put a lot of focus on it look like versus a brand that really leverages it as a core growth channel?
Absolutely. The first few years that we had our SMS program, it was one of those plug and play kind of situations that I think most brands really use it as. And that's, a basic welcome flow, a basic, hey, your product's on the way. And it's not really communication. It's just here's a simple flow or two
Hmm.
or three, and we're just going to let it ride. And then
Set
they're
it and forget it.
shocked. Exactly. Just set it and forget it. It's like a slow cooker,
Hmm.
right? Just put the roast in there. If it comes out dry, oh well, it's edible. And at least we're doing the thing. That was the problem. It just kind of did what we put into it.
Hmm.
But at this time, and once I took over utilizing SMS for our company, I realized that not only did we need more flows that offered more experiential engagement to our customers, but we also needed to figure out exactly what would work for our customer base. So the first thing I did was start some A/B testing. What language hits home? Do I need to do MMS with imagery or video, or is it okay just to use SMS, or
Hmm.
do I need to mix? For us in our community, being a tactical community, it ended up being that we didn't need MMS at all, which was great
Hmm.
because MMS is going to be way more expensive. You're going to have issues with loading. Some people's phones won't take it.
Yeah.
And so the SMS for us is what worked. Now, that may not be for everyone, but I do highly recommend A/B test your community. find what works for
Yeah.
your
And when
community.
you're saying A B testing, you're saying like the actual messages, right? So
100%.
perfect.
Yeah, the text, what your voice is saying, what does your brand voice sound like to your customer? What are they more responsive
Hmm.
to? Do they want something that sounds more professional or more friendly?
Hmm.
So it's that sort of thing as well. And then on top of those flows that are where you're experiencing our brand in the funnel. So an abandoned cart, a welcome, your products on the way, those kind of flows. On top of that, you need to have your broadcasts. But I have found that for our brand, it's not always just about, hey, this new boot is out. Hey, this sale is going on. Although those are very necessary and they do return considerably with ROI, it's also about this is who we are as a brand.
Hmm.
We are celebrating this holiday with you, especially for a military and first responder group like I deal with.
Yes.
Speaking to some of the military focused or Leo focused concerns, holidays, etc., that brings them back in, and it makes it not just a contact trying to sell you something,
Hmm.
but an actual voice you want to hear from.
And in those messages, like, are you trying to sell something? Like, is there a sale? Is it a promo? Or it's just like a small message like, hey, just wanted to wish you a happy holiday from
Absolutely.
the team and the brand and so on?
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
You have to have the broadcasts that are telling about a sale or trying to tell you about this boot you really need to buy. But you need to have it be more than that, because if not, it will start to fall on deaf ears. People won't always read. And so your click through rate will suffer because they think, oh, if I look at this, they're just going to try to sell me something. But if it's an actual communication, and not only that, I use Emotive by Privy, and they give you the opportunity to actually engage in conversations one on one as well through handoffs. The handoffs prior were not being handled at all, they just sat there. I have noticed that the more that I actually communicate back when there's a question that AI responder can't really connect with, I've gotten more sales. I've gotten better loyalty to the brand
Mm.
because the person feels like they're being heard.
Right.
That's the great thing and the bad thing about AI. There are certain responses that can be automated. There are certain responses that cannot. And if you lose the humanity of the platform, you're going to lose your customer.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Um, I'm curious here about the frequency of the podcast. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're really trying to build those relationships. I think it's also important, probably not to be too annoying either, right?
Yeah.
But I think like the definition of annoying varies from brand to brand, and no one really knows like how often should we send broadcasts. So, what's the answer?
Well, the answer is a personal answer to each brand, to each community, obviously. Um, we don't really have a lot of drop off with ours. And I think some of that reasoning is behind how we do utilize it, that we're not just inundating with sales. When we do overpost sales, I can tell that we get annoying or annoyed, I should say, answers back. And so we try to back off of that. If I'm going to send 3 a week, that's going to be very rare and very purposeful. So if there is a 3 day sale, I'm going to make sure you know that, like, and we target too. So you need to fraction out your audience. So we have a VIP audience that gets certain special treatment. On top of that, we have our full audience. We have our full audience that has purchased from this connection, and we won't email them again. So we're not just annoying you, annoying you, annoying you. But then we have, these have been reached but have not clicked through. And that gets, so you want to segment it out. We have, I think, 5 or 6 different segmentations that we do for any launch. Once you've purchased from that broadcast or engaged even from that broadcast, unless there's an abandoned cart that needs to happen, we leave you alone. We don't want to keep at you for something you've already engaged with, because that becomes an annoyance. So you want to segment, you want to watch what works and what doesn't. This is not a slow cooker kind of a thing. This is something you need to have hands on. I check it every week. I have a bi weekly meeting with my manager on their end so that we can make sure things are working. We analyze on a regular basis, and I keep an eye on that dashboard, which I do that with all of our apps, obviously. But for me, SMS has just shown and proven year over year it's growing, year over year
Mm,
it's doing better. The ROI is picking up year over year. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to me that if you touch it enough and you cater to your audience enough, the response will be there.
right. That's fantastic. I mean, you gave so many value bombs here. But I'm curious about the flows, right? We
Yeah.
talked about obviously broadcast. You have a strategy that's potentially a bit different, I think, than a lot of brands, and it's proven to work. Now, what about the flows? Because, like you said, like I think a lot of people they said it, they forget it, and they're like these templates that just go out, and that's kind of it. So, apart from like say your typical welcome flow, what are we looking at? Like, what should brands implement? And I know the answer here again is likely personal from brand to brand, but what do you believe are the essentials?
Well, you have to, of course, have a welcome flow. That's a given. You need to have an abandoned cart flow. It's another given. If they've left something in that cart, you want to touch back and find out, what you can do to help them to make a decision. And I know a lot of people are like me. You'll put wish lists in carts and then
Yep.
leave them, and then you mean to come back and purchase it, but maybe you forget. So that
Yep.
abandoned cart, you don't want to annoy someone with abandoned cart either, but to give them a timeline, and also, sometimes to sweeten the pot a little bit in that second touch of an abandoned cart if it's staying in that abandoned cart. But you don't want people to start thinking too, I can leave this in the cart and I'll get a better deal if I leave it in the cart.
Yep.
So you have to walk a fine line there too of not always offering that sweetening of the pot. Another thing we do is when, like I said, the shipping, when your product's on the way. We also do, you know what, I can pull those up, but we have multiple different experiences. Product recommendation is
Right.
another flow that we do. So if
Interesting.
you have scanned the website and you've looked at one product or two products, it will say, okay, so here's some recommendations of things. If this is what they're looking at, there's also these other products that they might be interested in. Or if you purchase, that's another one. If you've purchased, we'll wait a little while. We have a set determined time and we'll offer accessories that will go with that, or maybe a companion product
That's
that
a great idea.
offers, something along the same lines of a need as what you've already purchased. So I wouldn't call it upselling, because to me, I hate that word, to be really honest with you. I don't think it's personal. I think it's very old school selling where it's just hammer them until they spend all their money. It's more of a recommendation of how to improve your life with our products, in my opinion. And then also, a checkout kind of a setup, which kind of flows with that abandoned cart situation, but just making sure that the needs are met. And then we also do a review request. So a certain period of time after a purchase is made, would you like to place a review? If you do, you get a certain percent off for a future purchase. So not only are we encouraging future purchasing and brand loyalty, but we're also encouraging someone to leave a review. And if they're leaving these beautiful positive reviews, then that gets us more SEO. So we're going to be seen more. And then when people go to look at our website to purchase these same products, it's just like that
Yep.
Amazon mindset, right?
Yep.
You always scroll down and look and see what anybody else has said about that product. And so it gives people a sense of security that, okay, this is what I can expect from this product. And so these are experiential things that I think any brand
Yeah.
can leverage. It doesn't matter if it's boots or if it's perfume or whatever. If you're touching the audience in a meaningful way and communicating with them in a meaningful way, they're going to respond.
Right. I love what you're saying here because, I strongly believe, and this applies to what you're saying, right? You can convert customers when you're creating an experience that's relevant and enjoyable to them. I truly believe at the end of the day, that's the core of conversion optimization. That's the root of marketing, right? When you're building something that is in line with your customer, that's when they convert, by making their experience better, not worse. And it seems like that's what you've applied here when it comes to SMS. And obviously, it's working. So I think that's great. The second, I think, takeaway as well that I'm hearing is you are definitely leveraging flows at their fullest, right?
Yeah.
I think some obvious flows, like you said, like cart abandonment, right? They sound obvious. I've worked with hundreds of brands. I can probably say that it's 5-10% of brands that even have, anything beyond a welcome flow and broadcasts, right? So I think it's good for brands listening to think about, you don't need to go crazy all in one go, but just like add those couple flows once in a while and just treat them like any other channel. I think that's what I'm hearing makes
Yeah,
this
exactly.
work.
100%. Because, the thing to keep in mind is as you're moving through your life, this is your consistent companion. Your phone is always with you.
Yeah.
And why not leverage something, because they may not necessarily drive by a billboard. They may not necessarily go to this website or that website at any given time, but a little notification pops up on your phone. What do? You check it every time. Whether or not you're scooting past it, the visual is still there. And that brand awareness in that moment is, you can't beat it.
Now, I'm curious, as we're unfortunately almost out of time, I'm curious if you had to implement this all over again at the same company or at another company, right? Like, what would you have done differently, right? Like, you started almost from scratch in implementing this program at the brand, but is there anything you would have done differently, perhaps on day one?
That is an excellent question. When we started with the SMS, we did start with this program, but it was being handled by someone else. And it was that kind of plug and play mindset with that person. So in a way, yes, I did start from scratch with this because I brought it from just kind of a flat line to actually having a heartbeat and being viable and useful for the community. Um, Honestly, I feel like if we would have started at the place we are right now, it may have been too much for the community in the beginning. But I agree, starting with the flows first, building up good, tangible flows, running the ABs, finding the language, finding the timing, and just getting that going first, and then starting in with the broadcasts. But starting out hands on versus just plug and play, leave it be, whatever. Watch, engage. The A/B testing in anything you do is always going to be valuable because it's valuable information to tell you how
Yes,
you're being received and what's working, what's not working.
absolutely. We've been talking to Heather Roach, Director of Marketing at Original Footwear Company. Now, Heather, if people want to learn more about you, about the brand, where should they go? What should they do?
Absolutely. They should go to originalfootwear.com. That's our website. Our brands, that's actually the parent company. Our brands are Altama and Original SWAT. We make tactical footwear. So if you go on to originalfootwear.com, you're going to see our brand, you're going to see our footwear, and you're going to see our heart and our charity uh, involvements and things like that. If you want to follow us on social media, at Altama Boots or at Original SWAT, and we're there all the time. If you go onto Instagram, that's me you're talking to. So you can drop me a line and ask me any questions you want to.
Amazing. Heather, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.